Today is September 2nd, 2024, and Reactor Magazine has released chapters 10 and 11 of the Wind and Truth preview chapters. In this video, I'll be going through the two chapters and giving my thoughts of each chapter. Chapter 10 is titled Book Quartermaster, and we get an epigraph. We learn that the second key moment in the major event that happened was when Szeth decided to go on his quest of cleansing Shinovar. Then we get into the chapter. This chapter is from Kaladin's perspective. He and Syl visit the scribe's quarters, and Kaladin has no clue what to call it, so he kind of speculates and decides to call it the scribe's supply depot. Syl confidently calls Kaladin her pack human. She plans to use him as a way to carry her physical items. We learn that the Vadens have apparently invented the printer press. The first of Syl's items is a copy of The Way of Kings that was typed with one of these printing presses, which Syl notices immediately because the words are all broken up and not written with smooth lines like she's used to. She got this book as a gift for Kaladin, and she considers herself his scribe, or at least that's what she aspires to be. We see that some people in the tower seem to be prejudiced against Spren, and the book quartermaster is treating Syl differently, seemingly just because she's a Spren. Syl is very impressed with a new style that we see a woman wearing. We learn that it's based on an old Takama, which is the female version of the Takama, which are the warrior clothing of ancient times in Alethkar. Syl is actually so impressed with the style that she decides to rock that style herself and changes her clothing. We get information about Syl's chawl. I'm not going to go into detail on that. Let's just say Syladin stocks are through the roof. We do get some interesting information and learn that it's apparently easier for Syl to take on the shape of bits of nature than it is other types of objects. And she also can't hold to that shape forever, and she'll eventually snap back to the shape that she is in Shadesmar. It seems that permanent changes can be made to her Shadesmar shape, but only in exceptional circumstances. Syl is now able to pick up a feather pen, dip it in ink, and sign a single letter. This is all done with great effort. She's come a long way from her incorporeal beginnings. But the book quartermaster kind of makes fun of her and acts like her progress isn't impressive. This, of course, instantly makes Kaladin very upset, but he chooses to hold his tongue, and he instead practices his therapist skills by helping convince the mean quarter bookmaster lady to confront her own problems rather than taking them out on other people, such as Syl. And it seems to have actually gotten through to her, so that's good to see. Syl informs Kaladin that that wasn't the book quartermaster, and this isn't the scribe supply depot that they're in. That was the head librarian, and they're in the library. She also calls Kaladin adorable. So yeah, I think Syladin is almost confirmed at this point. Then we get to chapter 11, which is titled Music Spren. In the epigraph, we get hints of another contest that may happen in Shinovar that might be even more important than the contest of champions. I think this contest might be what the story of Fleet alludes to, but I covered that in an earlier reaction video, so I won't go into depth on that. Let me know what you think about this epigraph down in the comments. This chapter is from Shallan's perspective. It picks up where chapter 9 left off last week, right after Radiant stabbed the Heavenly One through the back. The fused survives the stab wound, and we learn from him that Shallan used a skill called substantiation to make Radiant physical. This was apparently a forbidden skill in the past, so the fused runs off to go and form Odium. As soon as the fused leaves the little chasm that they created in the beads, the chasm collapses, and Radiant puffs away into Stormlight. As the beads collapse on her, Shallan thinks to herself that she needs to find a bead that represents the soul of a room, and she finds a bead just like this almost immediately, which she feels is almost supernatural. I have a feeling that this bead might lead to Ba-Ado-Mishram's prison in the spiritual realm in some way, because this same bead is mentioned a few times throughout the chapter. Like right here it says she kept hold of that bead in her free hand because there was something very strange about it. Shallan also starts to hear a voice in her mind. I'm wondering if this could be the voice of the wind, or perhaps it's a different ancient Spren called the Truth. I think it would make a lot of sense if there were two ancient Spren, one to represent wind, one to represent truth. It would make the title of the book make a lot of sense. But either way, this voice leads her to find Adolin at the bottom of the bead ocean. She creates a chasm around her and Adolin, and then she immediately starts questioning if he's real. Now that she can make her illusions physical, she doesn't know what to trust as reality anymore. This is very bad for someone who already suffers from dissociative identity disorder. I could see this getting very out of control as the book goes on. The same voice that she heard in her head once again speaks to her and tells her to trust Adolin, and it seems to help. She believes that it's him. She starts to feel dizzy again, and a face forms out of the beads in one of the walls of the cavern she made. It's the same face that Kalak, or his other name Katek, told her was Ba-Ado-Mishram. And Shallan's sight begins to blacken at the edges, and she hears a woman's voice in her mind saying all kind of terrible things about destroying humanity. Adolin slams an oversized greatsword into this face, and the entire cavern disintegrates. Shallan thinks that she needs a dome or a spear like Navani's traveling spear, and she once again instantly finds exactly the type of bead that she needs. So I think it's pretty safe to say that she's probably drawing on fortune again, kind of like she does with her sketches. She uses this new bead to create a vehicle of sorts to fly her and Adolin back above the surface of the bead ocean. Shallan solidifies the beads around the vehicle to save one of the windrunners that fell into the beads, and that same heavenly one that attacked her earlier comes back to try to finish off the windrunner. This fused is named a biddy, and Adolin manages to fight this fused off. He rams the tip of his sword between two pieces of carapace in the fused sides, severely wounding the fused. A biddy tries to fly off, but he lost too much void light and he falls into the bead ocean. Shallan manages to physically form Radiant again, and Radiant begins to loose giant arrows from a shard bow at the fused in the air. Forming Radiant this way seems to be extremely difficult for Shallan, and she struggles to stay conscious. The other windrunners come and land on the platform, and Shallan uses one of the beads that she found to form a large box around everybody, and she lowers them down to the bottom of the bead ocean and then starts moving the box along the bottom. Shallan's able to sense pattern enough to find out what direction he's in, and they go and they pull Pattern, Testament, Maya, and Drehi's Spren all into the little cavern that Shallan made. We find out that the compass fabrial points toward the Grand Knell, source of the current, the death of a god. So that seems to imply that the compass is pointing toward wherever honor was splintered. Let's see where they're at in Shadesmar right now. So they left Lasting Integrity, and they are heading toward the Azamir Oathgate. So they're basically heading slightly northeast from Lasting Integrity. And we know that they saw a small strip of land that represented a river in the physical realm before they were attacked by the heavenly ones. So they're probably somewhere around this area. So we learned in chapter 7 that Drehi said that as long as they stay 48 degrees from the baseline, they should be right on target. Their target is the Azamir Oathgate, and that was when they were leaving Lasting Integrity. This is a 48-degree angle right here. So starting from Lasting Integrity, heading toward Azamir, that is 48 degrees away from the baseline. So that baseline could either be pointing this direction, which would imply that honor was splintered somewhere over in this direction, I suppose, right? Or the baseline could be pointing this direction. Anyways, that was just a little aside. I found that interesting. They find Gallant on a small island trotting along, surrounded by an entire herd of glowing horses, just like the one that Nodum rode in Rhythm of War. So these glowing horse-like spren are finally confirmed to be music spren. This was long speculated because of the way that they're described. In the Way of Kings, we see music spren zip through the air around them, the tiny spirits taking the form of spinning translucent ribbons. Whenever we saw Nodum's steed that he was riding in Shadesmar, back in Rhythm of War, it was said to have hair that waved in a phantom wind like long glowing ribbons. So yeah, it's good to finally have confirmation that these are indeed music spren. And we see that Gallant runs through the air, kind of flying along with the music spren, and their hooves make glowing marks and throw off sparks as they run through the air. So yeah, whenever we saw that Gallant seemingly wanted to run when he was lashed a couple chapters ago, it was alluding to this moment. And Gallant's strange afterglow that he has when he's in Shadesmar is likely to be the music spren that he bonded, overlapping his physical body while he's walking around in Shadesmar. The herd of music spren eventually run off, but one of them walks up to Adolin and puts its muzzle out. Adolin reaches up to touch the muzzle. So this is the music spren that bonded Sureblood before Sureblood's death. So that's a really touching moment. It's almost like Adolin got to interact with Sureblood one last time. And we find out that Gallant can only run through the air when he's with the whole herd of music spren. So he has to be lashed back up by Drehi whenever the herd leaves. And the chapter ends with the group figuring out why they were attacked so ruthlessly by the Heavenly Ones. There's an assault group made up of thousands of fused, sailing Mandra-pulled ships toward the Azamir Oathgate. So the group decides that it's of vital importance to make it to the Oathgate before the fused. And lastly, we get a sketch out of Shallan's sketchbook. So this is a sketch by Ben McSweeney, and it shows the music spren. It reads, Notum says that not all spren are imagined by men. Here we can see Gallant and the strange afterglow that he has in Shadesmar. Like the true spren, no two of these appear to be exactly the same. Adolin seemed to have a special connection with this one. So once again, that's likely Sureblood's music spren. Alright guys, those were just my thoughts on these two chapters. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be making these videos every Monday from now until Wind and Truth's official release on December 6th. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you know when the next part drops. And if you enjoy my content, consider supporting the channel by becoming a patron or a channel member. It really helps make these videos possible. I'll link both of those down in the description below. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one.